Shane Hewitt on the night shift. Chris Abel is here. You think he loves tech, you should see him dance. All right, Chris. Are we still keeping secrets? Are we allowed to talk about these things? Because I know we have some mega top secret topics here.
Right. No, it's all out in the open today. So Samsung just had their big Unpacked events at 1 p.m., in which they've unveiled their latest series of smartphones, the Galaxy smartphone. So it's called the S25. And some cool new features that are available. It does a better job of removing audio from videos. So the scratchy noise, the background noise that sometimes you catches in your videos, as well as can even remove sort of the dead parts of a video series where somebody's doing ums and ahs and that kind of thing. That's kind of neat. But the big story, I think, really is how it handles recording phone calls. And so this is something we saw late last year for both iPhone and for Google's Pixel phones, is the ability to record live phone calls. You're having a phone call, you hit record. There's usually a voice prompt that lets everybody know on the call, hey, this is going to be recorded. And then it ends and it says, hey, this was a recorded phone call. But what Samsung has done is they've offered a more sophisticated one using artificial intelligence. So now when you're on a phone call and you hit record, you can do that either at the start of the phone call or midway through the phone call. You can end the recording session anytime you want. So you don't have to record the entire phone call. You can just record parts of it. But I love the fact that during the phone call, the artificial intelligence on the phone starts to create a text transcription of the phone call. So later on, you can go back, you can read everything that was said. But this is done in real time. What I think is really cool is it displays it much like a text conversation. So it identifies each individual speaker. And then on the screen, you see speech bubbles that appears giving you the transcription of what was said. And later on, when you go back, it can translate anything that's been said from one language to another. But also when you go back to replay the recording, you can actually choose specific speech bubbles. So you can go back and get very specifically what somebody said and just repeat that line or that moment instead. Then at the end, when it's all done, if it's a long phone conversation, something that you had, let's say with a bank or with a doctor, you can have the artificial intelligence reduce the entire conversation down to just a quick summary text that gives you the basic, most important information, any addresses, prices, prescriptions, things like that were said, and give you just a quick summary so you don't have to go through the whole thing all over again.
Now, the cool part is it announces, right? It announces this call is being recorded or transcribed. And so that's a good thing. But if you're ever in a fight, can you imagine this, Chris? You're in an argument with like a family member or a loved one, and you're saying things that don't work. Like, well, you just calm down. And like, I'm not going to calm down. You calm down. And you hit the record button.
This call is being recorded.
You watch everybody calm down real quick.
Oh, quick, yes.
Some people just aren't going to want to be recorded. So it is good that they announce it. Okay, so there's some good tech stuff on the phones, fancy phones.
Yes.
How much was the phone? Like, it wasn't too much, was
it? The phone starts at $1,200 Canadian. And of course, there are different tiers in terms of the Galaxy phones that have different sort of upgrades in terms of cameras and stuff like that. But, it's actually not bad. I love that feature in terms of recording phone conversations. They're showing that the advantage of having artificial intelligence is that features we've seen before are going to get more and more sophisticated. That's going to be the next big upgrades with each generation of these phones. And so that's interesting to see.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how these phone upgrades go, because how much more horsepower do they need to do this, right? In order to do it
already
effectively,
we're at the
right?
point where most of these phones have processors that are far more powerful than really most people need. So it's a case of what are we paying the price tags for? Well, it's nice to know that we're seeing a sophistication or evolution of features that we may use all the time.
Yeah, and how much are people going to really want to dive into new physical phones when these software updates are just the biggest things, right? Like I wouldn't surprise me, and I'm speculating, Chris, but it wouldn't surprise me if they flip the switch and start charging us for the software upgrades, but give us the hardware for free. Maybe not far away from that idea. Just saying, not a great idea for me, but just saying, maybe it's not the case. That's the way it kind of used to be, right? Anyway, we continue on. Police officers tracking your stuff and their stuff just like we do now.
Correct. So this is happening in Colorado, where the Arvada Police Department have decided to launch a program where they will pay and buy Apple AirTags, and they're handing those out to members of the community. So they had a big gathering. They invited people to come and they had a little info session. And at the end of it, if you signed up to their program, they gave you a free Apple AirTag to place into your car. This is the tag that Apple has come out with. They cost $35 Canadian, and it allows you to track any device that you've placed that tag into. It could be your purse, it could be your car. And so the advantage here is that there's been a recent update from Apple that you can, once you want to, you can actually take a link and email that to somebody, and they can start using their phone to track and trace your Apple AirTag. So if you suddenly realize that your car has just been stolen, when you contact the police, you can send them a link and they can use their phones to then track and trace and get a hold of your car. Up until that point, they can't track or trace your car. They can give you an Apple AirTag as long as you're using it. It's not until you decide to report that your car is stolen that the police can then track it down. I think it's a very interesting program. I love the fact that in addition to giving Apple AirTags, they also hand people a big sticker to put on their car that says, "Warning, tracker equipped. This vehicle can be traced by police if stolen." So the point is not just to make it easier for police to recover cars that have been stolen, but hopefully to act as a deterrent to get car theft crime lower and lower and lower.
As long as they don't find the AirTag, because taking the battery out is really easy. Okay, Chris Abel is here, and we've got to quickly here hit robot salad tossers. That sounds like a movie.
Doesn't it? And that would be a very fun movie, too. So there's a New York restaurant called Sweet Greens, and they've brought in robots to handle making their salads. So this is, really quick. You get these little salads that are done in bowls, handed out. The idea is that they're saying is that the robots are great, but they're not there to replace anybody. So Sweet Green says they haven't had to fire or let anybody go. The human beings are there to supply ingredients to the robots, as well to offer some sort of human interaction to the customers that come in. The advantage to having the robots, they say, is that the robots can, get this, prepare 400 to 500 bowls of salad in an hour. So for a New York restaurant where you know that most of your clientele is coming in on their lunch break, and they've only got an hour to eat lunch and get back to the office, then it becomes very productive for them to be able to pump out 500 bowls of salad within that hour.
That's cool. I think that's really cool. Chris, how can everyone find you on Twitter, X, whatever?
At Real Chris Abel, KrisAbel.
All right, every single week this time we dig into the technology and so much more. Chris Abel is here. Thank you very much. Enjoy your salad, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, I will.
Shane Hewitt in the Night Shift.